what exactly inspired you to pursue a career in the pharma industry?
I then got a job as a chemist here in, I think it was the Bellevue Laboratory, doing chemical work, analyzing chemical data. And then I just made my way to biotech.
What does like a typical day look like for you? Like, is it more like lab-based stuff? Is it like meetings? Is it like a mix of both? Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of the NextGen Podcast. My name is Meghna, and I'm a senior at UCSD. Today's guest on the podcast is Ms. Betty Gibbins, a scientist at Pfizer with over 20 years of experience in project management, protein formulation, and analytical techniques. She leads the test article management system at PHRD Bothell, optimizing toxicology production processes, and has successfully managed numerous projects, including the test article fills. Thank you so much, Ms. Gibbons, for being with us today on the NextGen Podcast.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
So before we get into today's episode, just a quick brief overview about Pfizer's recent acquisition. It recently acquired Seattle Genetics for $43 billion, aiming to boost its oncology portfolio with Seagen's cutting-edge ADC, which is the antibody drug conjugate technology. We'll be going into more into that and detailed in this episode, but this is key in targeted cancer therapies. So just jumping straight in, Ms. Gibbons, I would love to know more about your journey to becoming a senior research associate at Pfizer, and what exactly inspired you to pursue a career in the pharma industry.
Thank you so much for having me. I would have to say my career, where I ended up now, has to go back all the way back when I was young. I always knew that I had an interest in math and science. I just didn't really know which field I was interested in. I thought, well, maybe I could be a vet, but I really couldn't deal with blood, so that was kind of a no. I thought about maybe I could be a physical therapist, and then, well, maybe not so much there, but for me, the deciding moment was when I was in high school. So I always took, the math, chemistry, science classes in high school. But it was one day, I can remember it well. I was in high school in the cafeteria, and my counselor had a piece of paper, and she was looking for those that would be interested in a summer research position. I grew up in the Tri-Cities, so I don't know if you're familiar with the Hanford Reservation. There's a lot of research laboratories out there. So she was looking for those interested in internship in the Hanford Reservation, and I said, yeah, I'd be interested in that. So that's kind of the start of my official career, I guess, in science. I was a senior at that time, so my senior year, I was able to do an internship at the Hanford Reservation. I don't even remember that first summer. I think it wasn't even laboratory based; it was something else, but the preceding summers after that, every summer I would go back and do the same internship at Hanford. I was able to do different research projects all over the Hanford site. Some of them I was outdoors doing field research work, and some of them were lab-based. And it was really that lab-based training, that exposure, that I decided that was definitely the career that I wanted to go into. So for me, I switched my major. I was in college at this time. I switched it from physical therapy to environmental biology with a minor in chemistry. So once I received my degree from Eastern Washington University, I then got a job as a chemist here in I think it was the Bellevue Laboratory, doing chemical work, analyzing chemical data. And then I just made my way to biotech. I wanted to switch. Being a chemist was okay, but I definitely had an interest in biotechnology. My first job really in biotechnology was a company called Zymo Genetics, which was in downtown Seattle. And then from there, in the biotech industry, you switch jobs a lot. There's a lot of layoffs and hiring, so it's just common in the biotech industry to switch jobs. So eventually I ended up at what was known as Seattle Genetics in Bothell, who then changed their name to Seagen. And then, as you mentioned, we were recently acquired by Pfizer. So that's how my journey of how I ended up in my current career as a scientist at Pfizer.
You mentioned the job switching, and I feel even especially now when the job market is really bad, when in tech and biotech and everything, I think it's even more prevalent in the industry.
Yeah, definitely. And it's all dependent on, you have a lot of biotech, small startups. They have their first project, they're really excited about it, and they don't get approved, and then they kind of go belly up. So it's kind of That's just the environment of biotechnology because you're really dependent on can you get approval for the project or the program that you're working on, and it fluctuates. There's a lot of fluctuation in the biotech industry.
So you mentioned like the approval. So what exactly do you need for it? Like if you're willing to share that.
Yeah, so definitely when a company has something that they've discovered, it has some sort of indication to cure a disease or a cancer, they go through development where they're developing that uses a protein base, at least for me, because I come from Seagen, we were all ADC based or antibody based. So you develop that product, that material into a drug product, and then you have to go through various approval processes with the FDA in order to get approval. So you get initial approval to do clinical trials, and then you go through your clinical trials. That's usually three different stages of clinical trials. Once you've gone through your clinical trials, then you apply for commercialization of your product from the FDA. And if they give you approval, then you'll be able to actually sell the product, produce it on a mass scale, and get it to patients in hospitals. So sometimes that does not go well. Not every project that you work on will necessarily go all the way to commercialization. So that's just part of the industry, something you might be excited about. You think it has a great indication, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't work out. Maybe it doesn't have it's not efficacy, it doesn't have an effect on curing the disease, or it's just there's other problems with the product and it just kind of fizzles out. It doesn't go all the way to commercialization. And
Oh,
that's just biotechnology.
okay, yeah, makes sense. So now going back into like your role as like a research scientist, like, what does like a typical day look like for you? Like, is it more like lab-based stuff? Is it like meetings? Is it like a mix of both?
Yeah, for me, it's about half and half. So half of my day is spent in the laboratory doing research. I'm in the pharmaceutical sciences department, so we're the formulations department. So we're more the development side. So there's the research side, which does the discovery. They're finding these proteins or these products that have an indication. Development, we're the ones turning that product into an actual drug substance. In the formulations department, we're the ones that are providing we receive this material. It's a mAb or an ADC product, antibody drug conjugate, and we have to make sure it can be taken safely as a drug. So we're adding different substances, chemicals to it to make sure that the product is stable, it's effective, that it could sit on a shelf for several years, or it could be ingested into the body and be done in a safe manner. So we're the ones kind of taking that material and turning it into the actual drug substance. So for me, um, like I said, half of my time is spent in a research laboratory doing studies that pertain to our formulation of the actual drug product. So, typical scientist in our lab, you're working on several different products at once. They're in different stages. Maybe you just received it, so it's called early stage, or it might be later stage development. Just depends on the product that you're working on. But that involves doing stability studies, formulation studies. We have a process called lyophilization. This is where we remove the water from a product. And usually we do that lyophilization to make a product more stable if it's needed for that. So there's a lot of different studies that you're working on in various stages for the different products. So again, half of my time is spent in the lab doing formulation work. The other half of my time, I'm working on more initiatives in our group. Like you mentioned, I do manage the GLP talks documentation for my group, as well as I've been involved with other operational excellence initiatives in our group as well. This is pertaining to operational excellence. I don't know if you're familiar with Six Sigma, but it's a way of doing things more efficient and faster, reducing waste. So the OE team that I lead in our department, we work on various initiatives in our department of looking at processes that we have or procedures that we have and how can we reduce costs, how can we make it better, how can we do it faster. So that's kind of my typical day. I guess half of my time is in a research lab, the other half is leading either the GLP talks or working on operational excellence initiatives.
So you mentioned like it's like kind of like 50-50 between like meetings and like labs. So do you work on like one project at a time, or are you like managing like, I don't know, like two or three, four, like do you like manage like multiple at the same time?
It depends. Sometimes we have one project that you're working on. Other times you have at least two, maybe three. It just depends on which stage you're in and where the projects are. So that's one thing about the biotech industry. We work on multiple things at once. We're quite busy. We always have something to do. So
Mhm.
definitely time management is definitely important for scientists that work in the lab because you have more than one project sometimes to work on. So it gets very, very busy.
So what is like the typical timeline when it comes to like projects? Like how long does it typically take? Like what are like the important steps that you need to do to ensure that the project does go successfully?
Are you asking in terms of from research to all the way to commercialization or within the formulations department?
Within the formulations department.
Yeah, typically it all depends. So that once we have decided on a formulation for a project, due to
Mhm.
feasibility studies and formulation studies. Then we file with the FDA, which is called an IND. It's kind of our initial look here, FDA, we've produced this product, and here's your initial look at the product. We've done all these studies. We made sure it's effective and make sure it's safe. So once we have that IND approval, then we will have approval for our product to go on to clinical trials, and then from clinical trials, you then again, submit a package to the FDA to say how data from your clinical trials, and then they can give you approval based on that. I would say the timeline for that depends. Some of our projects move a lot faster than others, but at least I would say maybe a year and a half to 2 years for that initial IND that we would submit to the FDA, and then several years for the clinical trial. So I'd say maybe I don't know. I would say 3 to maybe it could be up to I don't know, maybe 10 years. It just depends
Wow.
on the product and how quickly it's moving. I know that with a lot of the innovations we've seen with technology innovation, that timeline can be greatly reduced, but it just kind of just depends. Some programs move a little bit faster than others.
Okay. That's 10 years. That's a long time.
Yeah, that's
So I know we've gone into like a little bit of like kind of like what you do like in the formulations department and your role at like CGen/Pfizer, but what are like some of like your primary responsibilities in the current role and how does it specifically contribute to the success of like R&D projects?
yeah. So for me, again, half my time is in the lab working on either early stage or late stage programs. For the early stage programs, this is we've just received the material from our research department, so we're in the early stages of creating formulation uh, studies and doing a lot of initial looks and initial evaluations of the actual product. So that usually takes a lot of time because we do it in stages. So the first thing for a new project we're going to work on is the mAb. It's the antibody itself. And then the mAb is then later conjugated to produce the ADC product. So we do work on the mAb first, and then also on the actual conjugated ADC product. So there's different studies for each one that we're doing. So we have an outline of various studies that we run, different things we're looking for, pH. We're doing temperature stress, light stress, freeze thaw stress, again, at the mAb level and also the ADC level to make sure that the product that we have is stable. And then we have to make changes to the formulation to ensure that the product is still stable and still active and effective. So
Okay.
it's a lot of, yeah, the laboratory work, again, it's for the early stage, it's, looking at the mAb and the ADC product. If it's a late stage product, this is where we've already done all the formulation work and we're looking at different aspects such as materials compatibility. A lot of times our product, in the manufacturing process, it's exposed to different chemicals to make the product in the plant. It might be stainless steel, it might be glass. So we do a bunch of compatibility studies with our product just to make sure that it's compatible to those materials that it's going to be exposed to in manufacturing, as well as during the clinic. Our product may be exposed to saline because the doctors has saline, or that might be exposed to different needles or different IV bags or different administration materials. So we do a lot of evaluation of our product with the different materials that would be seen in a clinic setting as well. So that's more of a later stage um, study that we would run.
Okay. And I know that we've done like a little bit about like projects and like that sort of thing, but if you're like willing to like share, like what was like one specific project that like stood out to you as like particularly like impactful or rewarding, or just the one that you enjoyed learning the most about?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, I lead a lot of our operational excellence initiatives in the group, and that's something I actually learned that I'm actually really good at, and I actually enjoy. It's kind of a break for me from the hardcore science that we do,
Mhm.
but the operational excellence, again, this is doing things more efficiently, more with less materials, doing it quickly, saving cost. So this was something I really enjoyed. This was during the past 2 or 3 years, we started this initiative in our group of operational excellence. So I've been able to lead a lot of our products, or not products, our programs, to do an operational excellence evaluation to see how we can reduce costs, do it faster, and just save time. So that was something that I found to be very, very enjoyable the past 2 or 3 years working on operational excellence projects.
Okay. We've talked a little bit about like ADC technology and its role in targeted cancer therapies, but what exactly is ADC and how do the projects that you're involved with involve ADC?
Yeah, so ADC project, the acronym is antibody drug conjugate. So we have a antibody that is attached to a drug via a linker, and it's one complex that is a targeted therapy. So unlike other cancer treatments that kill the bad cancer cells, I guess you would say, and they also kill any fast growing cell like your hair or other fast growing cells within your body. The ADC is more of a targeted technology for cancer treatment. So it only targets the cancer cell itself. So it's a lot more effective and less, less, it's more I guess for the patient, it's less harmful for the patient if it's a targeted technology where the drug is only targeting the cancer cells and not the good cells as well. So that's kind of a little overview of the ADC technology. For me, at my time at Legacy Seagen slash Pfizer, I've worked on a number of different ADCs. Namely, Padcev is one of our commercialized products that I've been working on for a number of years. For Padcev, it's an ADC conjugate, or ADC, for the treatment of bladder cancer.
Mhm.
So it's really exciting to have that approval, Padcev, a few years ago. For my involvement on Padcev, it was mainly the late stage involvement, where we were looking at the different indications, possibly in various markets of Padcev beyond just bladder cancer, as well as supporting some of our commercial supply manufacturing for Padcev.
Okay, so does each different type of cancer have a different type of ADC, or like each type, I guess you could say?
It all depends. A lot of our ADCs that we have in development and that we have commercialized, it's a different cancer, I guess, for each one.
Okay, so it depends like more on the cancer type
Mhm.
than at what stage the patient is in.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we talked like previously about like how to ensure that your project goes to success, but what do you feel are like the 1 to 2 crucial factors that you need to ensure that it's effective and innovative? Because there are like, or in the country itself, there's like thousands of biotech companies, and even in the world, there's probably like thousands more.
Yeah.
So how do you ensure that the project that you're currently working on is effective as well as innovative?
I would have to say, well, one of the things that we do to make sure that we can develop our products quickly is that we platform a lot of our analysis and our studies. So, platform, basically, when we run our studies, it's the same study, but a different product. And
Mhm.
this can ensure that we can do it. faster, and there shouldn't be any complications. And this is one way that we can at least get through our development a little bit quicker, is if we just have a platform study and a platform method where we can just basically just plug and go. So we don't anticipate any issues with the product, and we can just do it a little bit faster. Other times, if it's something very unique, we might have to do additional studies or proof of concept studies to determine what changes we need to make to our study setup or to our process. Sometimes we take a little bit aspects of the platform methods and studies to incorporate into something that's new. But again, we're looking at ways to get the job done. That's very less time consuming, reducing costs, and also to keep, to make sure everything is moving forward. So it's either a platform that we run, or it's kind of a combination of a platform plus something new and innovative.
Okay. So the success rate for projects are quite low that you mentioned before. So what are some like significant challenges that one faces in drug research specifically, especially when you have to balance like efficacy, safety, developmental timelines? What are like the most common challenges that one faces?
Yeah, there can be a lot of challenges, because basically you have to maintain that the drug is effective, but while also maintaining the safety standards. There's also a compliance, a regulatory compliance component of that. So any of those things can delay the program, as well as your clinical trials can be expanded. Maybe you saw something in clinical trials that you might have to go back and reevaluate. That can also extend the timeline drastically. So it's just about keeping all these factors in mind, and then addressing any issues that come up along the way, that you can troubleshoot and address them right away, so it doesn't extend the timeline too much. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of barriers that can impact your project, and definitely the timeline.
So like AI and ML, advanced analytics, all those fields are kind of growing. Do you feel like they would be able to positively impact R&D like projects as well as probably like speed in the process?
Yeah, definitely AI is already being used in
Mhm.
biotechnology. It can play a huge impact in, saving time, such as we have a lot of huge data sets. I mean, mega data sets of data, both in, drug discovery and also in development. So definitely the use of AI can make things a lot faster, accelerate the development, and also help us to decrease risk because of the power of AI. And it's something, at least for Pfizer, they're very aware of AI, and looking for ways to incorporate AI in research and development.
So pharma as like a field is like very collaborative. Like you mentioned, you have like meetings, and even when you're working in labs, you're working with people from like different fields, I guess you could say. So
Yeah.
how is like working with like cross-functional teams or like external partners? Because Pfizer is a worldwide
Yeah.
based pharma company. So how has that changed or influenced the way that you approach your projects when it comes to like formulation or like ADC specific?
Yeah, yeah, as you mentioned, definitely Pfizer is all over the world.
Mhm.
So definitely we don't do our work in a silo. We have to work with other departments to even get our work done. A lot of that collaboration is done on a daily basis. Of course, it's difficult when you're working with people maybe in different locations, time zone difference. Definitely if you have to collaborate with somebody in Europe, or even China, that's definitely difficult. Sometimes it's late
Mhm.
at night or early in the morning. So definitely we do those collaborations on a daily basis, to make sure that we're aligned on goals and strategies for the product. So it's something that is basis to, the work that we do in any biotech company. That collaboration is very, very important.
Okay. So have you like had to like present, like if you're like willing to share, like have you ever had to like present with like a Pfizer like project in like a different country or a different like state? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
a lot of Pfizer. Pfizer's mainly on the East Coast of the
Uh-huh.
U.S. We're the only ones on the West Coast. I think it's, maybe in California as well. But definitely, whenever I have a meeting, where a lot of times I do present, but I have to make sure that I'm in the right I have to look at the meeting invite and make sure it's the right time zone, because
Mhm.
otherwise, you might be 3 hours off. I know
Okay.
that one time I did have to give a presentation to someone that was in Europe. So I
Mhm.
had to get up at 4 a.m. To give my presentation, and then I went back to sleep. So yeah, that's just common when you have different people on different locations on the in the world, and you're a global company. That's kind of, you just have to deal with it.
The one that you mentioned actually in California, I think it's in like San Diego, and I
Yeah.
believe it's actually maybe like a 15-minute drive from campus.
Oh, really? Okay.
I
Great.
think so. So we talked about like AI and those type of like different innovative research methods that are like coming up. So are there any specific ones that you're excited to use or that you're enjoying using currently?
Yeah, we're using AI a lot in our automation.
Mhm.
We have a lot of, especially in our lab, a lot of automation in terms, we even have a robot that does sample preparation. Not robot is like a person, but like it's a machine.
Wow.
So definitely we're using AI, definitely in, the way we do our laboratory work, as well as managing the databases. Again, we have a lot of data in databases, so AI definitely helps us to pull data together, search data, and come up with conclusions a little bit more easy and more concise. So definitely, it's kind of starting now, AI, but I definitely see a large um, use of AI in the coming years of how we do our research.
Okay. And going into like more in like the future, for like the current maybe like college students or post grad that are like looking to get into research or just and somewhere in like the lab side of the pharma industry, where do
Mhm.
you see the future of pharmaceutical research like heading when it comes to like gene therapy, mRNA, immunotherapy, like where do you see like it headed, like what direction?
Yeah, definitely with AI technology. So definitely having a handle on AI technology and being comfortable with that is definitely something I would suggest. Definitely, mRNA is definitely something that we saw the power of mRNA with the COVID-19 vaccines. So definitely that's rapidly growing and expanding. So definitely having a handle of mRNA technology, and how we're basically reinventing the next level of vaccines and therapies. Definitely, having an understanding of that will definitely give you a benefit.
So going into like more in the field in general, what do you feel are like the most common misconceptions about the field of
Yeah,
pharma?
I think a lot of people have misconceptions that it's mainly a male dominated
Mhm.
industry, which I don't see. I see a lot of women in leadership positions. I see a lot of women that are directors at the high level. So I think it's definitely, there's opportunities for women, and I would not just I would hate for women or to be discouraged that maybe it's not for them.
Mhm.
But there's so many opportunities that I see. I would hope that people would still push through and not believe in that stereotype that women are not in science or in biotech. I know that for Legacy Seagen and Pfizer, they actually have done a lot of work to ensure that women have those opportunities for career development and just their personal development. We have a lot of employee resource networks that we have, and one of them is women, or women based, for women only, and it's mainly a mentoring group to help people along their career paths and make their career goals. So definitely, I would hope that people would see that it's not just a male-led industry, but that women are playing a huge contribution to that. Probably another one would probably be the lack of color or people of color in the industry. Again, I don't see that as well. I see a lot of people of color, various backgrounds within Legacy Seagen and Pfizer. So I would hope that, the people of color would definitely consider the fields. I think we need more people of color. I mean, we're
Mhm.
here, but definitely more people would be great to see, because just to have the representation. Again, for Legacy Seagen and Pfizer, we have employee resource groups for people of color. We have a group for Asian, Black, Latino, and I believe disabilities and pride. And again, this is just celebrating the differences of people and also helping people to be feel welcomed and also to help them also with their career development as well. So it's something that Pfizer really takes serious is to making sure that all are welcomed and have a place.
So when you're talking about like the first misconception, that was actually the driving factor behind me starting this org because I felt like if we kind of expose people and women in general to different fields, then they would kind of understand the aspect of that field, kind of learn more about it, and maybe just get involved just to see if they like it or not. And I
Right.
hope in the hopes to maybe, someday eradicate that misconception. But
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I'm glad that you're doing this project because, again, I think people need to see women in the field of biotech and just STEM in general. I think it gives people hope that, oh, there's someone there like me. Oh, I could do this as well. So I think it's a great project that you have.
for sure. And now like kind of just like wrapping up, in general, what do you feel are like the particular skills, mindsets, experiences, or just like something that somebody needs to like evolve on in order to be successful in this field or in pharma research specifically?
Yeah, definitely science. You have to have an interest in science and
Hmm.
math. So that's kind of the basis. But definitely, I would say you have to be curious and you have to ask why. And you have to be able to troubleshoot and problem solve. A lot of the work that we do, things don't go right. And you
Hmm.
have to understand what's the solution? What are some creative solutions we can come up to solve this problem? And definitely, you know, just basic scientific curiosity. Why is this happening? We hardly ever take a result at face value. Oh, we got this result for the test. Okay, well, why? Or, how does this impact, this other aspect of this project, or how does it impact another department? So just having basic scientific curiosity is very important if you're going to be in biotech, and definitely problem solving, coming up with creative solutions. I would say those are kind of the basics. Besides basic science and math, those are really great aspects to have if this is an industry that you're interested in.
And I feel like branching off from that, you mentioned like there are like challenges that one like faces, and it may not be right on the first, second, third time. But I feel like one has to also be determined and curious to be like, hey, why didn't this not work out?
Mm.
Or what can I change to make it work?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we do a lot of outside of the box thinking. We just don't
Mhm.
push buttons. We have to ask why and kind of look at the big picture of what's going on.
Mhm, for sure. So just last question, just like on your journey so far, like from being interested first in like physical therapy to kind of getting your research experience and getting more involved in the pharma industry, what probably has been like the most rewarding part of your career so far?
I like it that I work for companies that are focused on the patient.
Mm-hmm.
Even Legacy Season and definitely Pfizer, it's patient focused. We're all about the patient and developing these therapeutic drug products to get them to market so that we can change lives and maybe save some lives as well. I think one of the most rewarding things is when we get to hear from the actual patients that have taken our products. To hear someone say, "Oh, you've given me my life back," or "I'm not in pain anymore." I think that's very impactful, and it makes you feel just really good about the work that you do. I mean, we work really hard, we work long hours, we're really busy, but to hear from the patients themselves of how a product that you might have worked on changed their life, I think that's very impactful, and that definitely pushes you to keep going. That the work that we're doing is good. It's hard, but it's good work that we're doing, and it's really great to hear that we're impacting patients and changing lives.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much, Miss Gibbons, for being with us here on the Next Gen podcast. I truly learned a lot from this podcast, like in terms of like biotech and pharma and like that sort of a thing. It was truly like a really insightful episode. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.